Everyone, it's time for us to go and take a look at the iPhone 17 and compare it against the iPhone 13 and see which particular phone is the better one for you. Now, definitely the iPhone 17 is a far better phone than the iPhone 13, but the 13 still brings some things to the table, so let's go and see kind of how they both compare. Now, if you want to go through and pick up either one of these particular phones, links will be down in the description below. You can get them from there, and you can help support the channel at the exact same time. Now, starting off with the outside of both these particular phones. The iPhone 13 came out back in 2021, and this phone on the front side is giving you a 6.1-inch Super Retina XDR OLED display. The panel itself is not terrible, it is still like a really decent panel, but it is a little outdated in some ways. You can see you're getting this notch up top, which is a little outdated, thicker bezels, a smaller display than the 17, less brightness, and a 60 Hz display. The 60 Hz display is probably its biggest downside here because it definitely, you can definitely tell it just doesn't look as great as something like the newer panels. It's not terrible though, like if you're still using it, it's still going to feel like a good device, but there's other phones out there like the 17 that definitely give you a much better type of experience. With the 17, this phone is going to be giving you a slightly larger 6.3-inch Super Retina XDR OLED display. So this panel is going to be slightly bigger, so that's going to be nicer. It's like almost in the same footprint, so it feels like the same size. Less bezel in the 17, dynamic island, 3000 nits of brightness, and a 120 Hz ProMotion display. That is already a significantly better panel inside of something like an iPhone 17 over something like the iPhone 13. So this panel here is definitely far better than something like the iPhone 13 for sure. Now, when it comes down to the rest of the bodies, you can kind of see that they're both, again, built a little bit differently, but they're both kind of the same. They both feel basically the same in the hand, flat sides. The 13 does have a SIM card tray here, which is always nice to have. The 17 didn't have it. You do have the action button here on the 17, USB Type-C on the bottom of the iPhone 17, Lightning on the bottom of the iPhone 13. The right side, you're getting this camera button on the iPhone 17, no camera button on the iPhone 13. The side buttons are the same. Now you're also getting a slightly different back. The iPhone 13 is giving you this solid glass back, where the 17 is giving you this frosted glass back. So the 17 is going to feel like a more expensive phone because it is technically a more expensive phone in today's standards. Actually cheaper if you consider inflation. They both have MagSafe capability. The 17 has reverse wire charging. But other than that, there's not really anything else like super crazy different going on here. They both feel like good phones still, but the 17 definitely feels like a much more premium device than something like the iPhone 13 in today's standards. But when it comes down to the price tag, the iPhone 13 is pretty much, it's significantly cheaper than the iPhone 17. The 13 is going to be it's going to cost significantly cheaper. This phone's probably less than $300 in a lot of ways, maybe 300 something if you're really not trying to negotiate. So it's significantly cheaper, less than half the cost of the iPhone 17. So that is going to be another really important thing to keep in mind as well. Also, when it comes down to its software, the iPhone 13 is still supported with software. It's on iOS 26 right now, but the iPhone 17 is probably going to last like 4 more years longer than something like the iPhone 13. So if you're trying to get the phone that's going to last a longer amount of time, it's definitely going to be something like an iPhone 17 rather than an iPhone 13 because this phone is so much more newer. Now let's go and do a speed comparison between both these phones. The iPhone 17 has that Apple A19 chipset inside with 8 GB of RAM, where the iPhone 13 has that Apple A15 Bionic chip inside of it with 4 GB of RAM. So let's go and see which one's the faster phone between both. So there we go. All the applications are cleared out in the background, so let us get into it. Phone calls 3, 2, 1. And if I just kind of start opening up all these applications, you're going to be able to see immediately that the iPhone 13 is probably not going to be as fast, but you can see that there's also some glitches kind of going on with the 13. The 17 feels like a much more smoother phone when you're kind of scrolling through, so that is going to be one of those things to kind of keep in mind there. Scrolling in and out of applications as well, that's also going to be another thing, because I'm seeing, I don't know if you're able to tell over the camera, but definitely as you're kind of going through and kind of looking at these particular application opening, I'm definitely seeing a far better, smoother experience inside of something like an iPhone 17 rather than something like an iPhone 13, which again is expected. That's totally okay. But for there to be like 4 years of difference between these two, it doesn't really seem like that big of a difference. But you can see right there for that application, that was fairly glitchy on something like an iPhone 13. But I guess once the application's loaded, it's not too bad. You can kind of see here as well, like random types of glitches. That has nothing to do with the iPhone's performance. That one was actually pretty fast on the iPhone 13. For this type of application, there's ever so like slight differences, but it's nothing crazy. But as you're going through and using these phones, that's when you're going to start seeing kind of the slow, kind of the glitches here and there, the small little things. But those small things can definitely add up depending on who you are. So again, it's not the biggest deal in the world, but as you're using these types of phones, that's when you're going to notice those types of small glitches, and maybe that'll end up being a little annoying. Now I accidentally opened up that one on here, so we'll just kind of close out of that one. We'll go and get into apps like Netflix, and again, we'll kind of see what ends up happening here. But from kind of what I'm seeing, the iPhone 13 is definitely a little slower, but it's not really that bad. Like it still feels like a fast phone. It seems like it's stuttering a lot though. Like when I'm going through and loading up an app, it feels to me that it is stuttering a little bit, which is a little unfortunate. Again, it's not the biggest deal in the world, but from what I'm seeing, it does look like something like the iPhone 13 is glitching a little bit as you're opening up the application, as you're kind of getting into it. But the speed of the iPhone 13 still feels like a very fast phone. So I don't want to give the impression that the 17 is like 30 times faster than something like the iPhone 13. It's faster for sure, and it's smoother with the ProMotion display. But once you kind of load into the apps, it's really not too bad. Like you're still getting like a pretty good type of experience between both. But the 13 definitely feels like it's glitching up a lot more on iOS 26, more so than something like the iPhone 13, more so than something like the iPhone 17. So from that side, that kind of covers it up there. Now, on top of that, when it comes down to their cameras, this is another important thing. They both have their different types of camera setups inside, so they're both giving you dual camera setups, but there are some key differences with these cameras. So you can kind of get an idea of what they look like. They both have, video mode, cinematic mode, and things like that. The iPhone 13 maxes out zoom at 5x, where the iPhone 17 maxes out zoom at 10x. So you're getting significantly more zooming in inside of something like the iPhone 17. You're still maintaining video mode and cinematic mode between all of them, which is really nice to have. The main advantage, I would say, for something like an iPhone 17 is that you do get that center stage type of capability on the front. That is a really nice feature to have. I definitely do think if you're going to go through and use a phone, having that center stage front camera is a super cool thing, and you're definitely going to be getting that inside of the iPhone 17. But I would say from that side too, like the cameras themselves are still very, very good. But if you're wanting the better camera here, for sure, it's going to be something like the iPhone 17. That one's going to be giving you a much better experience. Also, when it comes down to their battery life, I just did a battery test yesterday. The iPhone 17 did a much better job than the iPhone 13. The 17 did a really, really good job there. I'm very happy with the way the 17 kind of, was holding up. So from that side too, that is kind of another advantage for something like an iPhone, 17. This battery life was like, still alive when the iPhone, I think this thing almost lasted like 10 hours, where the 13 died at like 6 hours. So it's a significantly better battery life. So to kind of sum it up, what I definitely will tell you is that when it comes down to these types of devices, the 17 is giving you a really good type of device. It's going to be giving you a bigger type of display, ProMotion display, high refresh rate, better cameras, better build quality, camera button, action button, things like that. Like it's a really, really good phone. And it's a faster phone too. And for, $800, I think it's a good phone, but it still feels pricey. The 13 is still a good phone too. Like I feel like for the price, this thing is still not bad. But I would say if you have the option to, you don't have to go and buy an iPhone 17. You can still buy an iPhone 15 Pro or even an iPhone 14 Pro and still get a pretty decent upgrade from a 13. Of course, it's not going to be something like a 17, but a lot of the gripes I have with the 13 can be fixed with something like an iPhone 14 Pro. So in terms of that kind of covers it up there. If you have any other thoughts or questions, please let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that'll mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.